Hey, managers of the Super Conference. This is your commissioner, Tyler Burkhart, with the Week 9 recap. It's coming out a day late because, of course, the presidential election. So we'll have no graphics this week. I want to make sure I just get it out to you as soon as possible. So let's get going with the awards and what a week it was. And we'll soon see. The best manager of the week, I have to give to Adam Wirtz of Green Bay Legends. He went out and got Stephen Ridley, Ryan Matthews, and Larry Fitzgerald. So he's starting to put these pieces together and investing in this year, which I think is a good decision. I think he's got some good odds as far as getting a first-round bye, and I think he's going to look good. So unless he gets upset one of these weeks, I think Green Bay's good to go. And because he's doing that and did a good job of it, I'm going to give him manager of the week. Worst manager, not by choice, is Josh Miller of San Fran Frenzy. Unfortunate news to Darren Sproles. I don't think anybody saw that necessarily happening. But with the loss, he's probably out of the playoff contention now, especially if you look at his schedule. He's got a tough route the rest of the way there. So I think San Fran's probably going to miss the playoffs. And this week I'll stick him for the worst manager, even though, like I said, not really his choice. All right, game of the week, no doubt about it. Fargo taking on New York. Wow. And let's just take care of two things right away. Also, most valuable player is Doug Martin. The 52 points that Doug Martin had last week was more points than Fargo put up in week 2. Remember, week 2, Fargo had the pathetic 39 points. 52 alone from Doug Martin. Just unbelievable. But it was a crucial game for both. So I think that's another reason why it was interesting to watch this matchup. Fargo competing for that wild card spot, New York competing for the AFC East. So both really wanted this win. Fargo ended up stealing it at the end. But it was fun for all of us to watch, and thankfully we didn't have to play either of them. Upset special, I don't really see any upset that happened this week. I think all the games were fairly predictable. If there was one, I might go with the fact that Oakland wasn't upset by New York, because I was pretty confident about that. And so the fact that Oakland still pulled it out, had a good move putting in Golden Tate, which definitely helped that victory. That could maybe be classified as the upset special. But otherwise, it was a pretty simple week. All the expected teams, I think, did win. Most valuable player, we already covered, Doug Martin. Fantasy dud, Eli Manning of Portland Car Ramrod. He only put up 3 points. But once again, we recognize Portland's depth. This is why he's a good team. Still put up over 100 points despite that. And he's looking good to go for the future. So quite interesting to see there. Okay, so let's get to the rankings. Once again, no font or graphics. So I'll go through each team real quick individually to help you out. The top 2 teams, number 1, Green Bay, number 2, Seattle. I think, until these teams lose, I'll look at it more closely, but, they have the instrumental pieces. They're well-rounded teams. So I really like what they have going on there. That's why I have them at 1-2. Not far behind, I think 3 and 4 is San Diego at 3, Portland at 4. Both teams, once again, well-rounded. They just don't have, the consistent Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Peyton Manning has been good. Eli Manning has been good, but obviously they're not to Aaron Rodgers' level or Drew Brees' level. So that's been kind of interesting to see that quarterback battle between all these teams. But these teams are still pretty solid. For the most part, I think they'll be good bets to get to the playoffs. So now as we continue, I think this is where it's going to be really heated. So 5, we have Indianapolis, 6, Fargo, 7, San Antonio, 8, Oakland. So those 4 teams are competing virtually for one playoff spot in my mind. Because the other playoff spot is going to go to the AFC East, which we'll get to in a second. But 5 through 8 in the rankings, Indianapolis, Fargo, San Antonio, Oakland, are, in my opinion, competing for that one playoff spot. It'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Okay, then we get to 9, New York, 10, Cleveland, 11, Washington. New York probably has like a 60% chance of winning. Cleveland, 35. I think I have like a 5% chance, but it's still there, which is crazy with all the trades I've done as far as selling out in the year. I think I still have that sliver of a chance. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I think New York is still looking good, especially with the pieces he has now with Randall Cobb, Julio Jones, Chris Johnson, C.J. Spiller. Starting to look like a pretty good team. And then really the other teams I think are definitely out of the playoff hunt. We got the Quakes 12, Frenzy 13, Bailout, Bryans, and Legend kicking off the rankings. So I think it's fair to say 5 teams are for surely out. I'll probably be out after playing Green Bay this week. So after this week, we'll have 10 teams still in the hunt. But we'll have to see what's in store. But that's the rankings after Week 9 for you. All right, so let's move to Week 10. What's in store for you? Game of the week, in my opinion, I already talked about the playoff implications here. We got another big one, Portland versus Fargo. Now, I'm going to make a bold statement by saying the winner of this game will make the playoffs. The reason for that is because both teams have very easy schedules to finish the year. I think for the last 3 weeks, they'll for surely go probably like 2-1. So I think for sure. So I think because of that, a win here would get them into the playoffs. So big matchup here, big stakes, and both teams are really hot. So I'm curious to see what happens there. My upset special, I'm kind of hoping for it, so I know I'm kind of biased on this, but I think Minnesota Bryans could pull off the upset and beat New York Yankees. He's got Rashad Jennings playing Indianapolis, he's got Roddy White playing New Orleans, he's got Phillip Rivers playing Tampa Bay. All really good matchups for the key players that he does have left. Meanwhile, Yankees, Carson Palmer going against Baltimore is not a good matchup. He's got Randall Cobb with a bye. And then Chris Johnson against Miami, which Miami's been a hit and miss this year as far as defense. So I don't know what to expect there. But especially if Chris Johnson puts up one of those 1-point fantasy points that he sometimes has done this year, I think that could be an upset for Minnesota. So we'll see what happens there. Lastly, for the prediction winners, Seattle, Washington, and Indianapolis all had 6 right, so they'll get 5 FAAB dollars. I'll update all that tonight, and that pretty much sums up Week 9 recap for you. So once again, make sure to go to the website and see anything that you would like to vote for next year. I'll send out that SurveyMonkey in a few weeks still. No need to send it out now. But otherwise, with the playoffs coming up, make sure to also know that the trade deadline is next week Friday. I forget what the actual date is. I think it's the 16th. But make sure you recognize that it's next week Friday. All right. So that wraps it up. I'm your commissioner, Tyler Burkhart. Best of luck in Week 10, and game on.